Parshas Behar-Bechukosai. So we're going to start with a fascinating line of the Chidah. It's just one of those things. It's a little Kabbalistic, but it's a Chidah and it's Kabbalah, so it probably works. There's a Medrash. The Medrash is very famous. It says by Bechukosai Teilechu Hadou Dechsev. David HaMelech until him says, Chishafti derachai. I thought of my ways. Vashiva raglei ideisecha. What does this mean? Amar David. Says David HaMelech, Rabbeinu Shalom, B'chol yom v'yom, each and every day, you see Machashev, I think, V'aymer, Loma complaining, I'm going to go, Ulebeis dira plainis aniyulich, I'm going to go to this place, I'm going to go visit this house, and V'yoraglai mevias, I see Lebati Kinesios, Lebati Midrashes, and my legs take me to shul and take me to Beis Medrash. Okay, very gishmak, David HaMelech, usually we hear this, honing in on the incredible milah of David HaMelech, that his legs automatically walked to shul. But asks, many of the Sfarim, they ask, David HaMelech never woke up and said, I'm going to go to shul. B'chol yom, every day I said, I'm going to go to this house, I'm going to go to this marketplace. I don't understand. He never said, today I'm going to Beis Medrash. So they quote from the Chidah, as well as they saw in the Sefer Bina Le'itim, quotes from the Kadmainim, that David HaMelech is teaching us a tactic against the Yetzer Hara. Whenever you say you're going to do this, it doesn't happen. Whereas if you say, yeah, I'm going to hang out with my friends, and you just pull up at the shul, you sort of trick the Yetzer Hara, and that's what David HaMelech is teaching us. A fascinating chidah, and many people happens to be remark, when they say, I'm going to wake up early tomorrow, all of a sudden the alarm doesn't work and they don't get up early. Whereas don't tell people. You just set the alarm. All of a sudden you have the power to wake up. So whether it's a Kabbalistic thing, whether it's a psychological thing, whatever it is, but this is what David HaMelech is teaching us. When we want to do something, just do it. Don't talk about it. There's also Mailin, Sneas, etc., etc. So that's just a nice nugget from David HaMelech to start off the day. But really, there's an incredible idea that Rav Shamshon Hirsch brings out at the end of all the parshas. We have Behar-Bechukosai. We have so much going on in the parshas. We have the Teichachos and the Brachos. We have Amelus B'Tayra and Bechukosai Teilechu, which everyone talks about. But then, at the end of the whole thing, Perach Chav Zayin starts off, Daber Hashem al Moshe Leimar, Daber al Bnei Yisrael v'amarta aleim, Ish ki yafli neder be'erkecha nefashes Hashem. You bring a neder, a nedava, all the voluntary offerings. You want to give tzedakah, you want to give something special to Kadosh Baruch Hu, etc. Says Rav Shamshon Hirsch that if you look at the full tapestry of Sefer Vayikra, what you see is incredible. The Torah begins with the chukim, the mishpatim, all the laws, all the halachos, and now it's ending with that which is voluntary. So I think many of us often think that which is voluntary is the best. You didn't need to do it. I didn't need to go to the shir and I went. I get an extra gold star. I didn't need to say a kapitel telem and I did. I'm incredible. And the truth is, you are, and then let's put that out to start. Yes, anything we do is incredible and we never should feel that we don't have that. But says Rav Hirsch, sometimes our priorities are a bit skewed. And sometimes we skip the first 26 parakim and we just go to chapter 27. And we go to all the voluntary things in life. And I do Tehillim, and I do this, and I do that. And one fills himself up and tricks himself at some level to thinking that he's an incredible person. But he's doing it all, but he's forgetting the actual halacha. You can't forget that the basics come first. And he says, when he does them, he feels that he's very special, and he feels that he's very holy, and it's all true. It's all amazing. But if it's happening at the expense of halacha, the expense of the mishpatim, of the chukim, then it's something one has to be very, very careful about. So says Rav Hirsch, the Torah puts it at the end to teach us, first comes the halachis. First comes that which you have to do. And only after that is the voluntary. So now, let's comment on the words of Rav Hirsch. Obviously, any bit of Torah is incredible. And any bit of Tehillim is incredible. And any bit of Chesed is incredible. And no one should take out of here, okay, all I should focus on is doing what's required and nothing else. But we should take out of here is sometimes the Yetzer Hara is all too quick to trick us into thinking we're so incredible. You did that? Nah, don't worry about davening. Don't worry about the minyan. It's okay. I don't want to give examples because every person on their level, on their situation, and there's no two situations which are created equal, etc. But we do have to realize that there is, of course, and sometimes that which is most obvious, of course, the Ramchal teaches us, is that which we have to be reminded of. The basics, the letter of the law, and only after that comes all the nidarim, the nidavais, all the optional offerings to Hashem, an incredible limud to end off Sefer Vayikra. So now, let's, for one more moment, let's hone in a little. We're going to do a little tidbits today, and then we'll end with something nice. The Sfas Emes says in the Torah, we count Shemitah. You count 7 years, then you have Shemitah the 7th year, which you don't plant your field, you don't work your field. Eretz Yisrael just had Shemitah. Beautiful. Why do you have to count? What are you counting for? What are you counting for? Serious Aimer, we understand. We're counting for Matan Torah. We're counting for this incredible day that we're going to get the Torah, Kabbalah Torah again. What are we counting for Shemitah? And to say even a little bit more, perhaps, that's how the Sfas Emes asks it. To say a little bit more, I think any businessman, imagine, it's hard for us to fathom. Imagine you had a whole year that you're off from work. That's it. You don't open the phone, you don't open the computer, you don't pick up the phone, you do nothing. All your contacts are calling you, and there's a voicemail that is pre-recorded that says, I'm off for the year. Come back next year. That's pretty difficult. I think all of us would be worried, like maybe they're going to go find a different person to help them. That's what Shemitah is. We sort of just like, yeah, it's a farmer and whatever. He has to have Amunah and he'll be okay. Just if we put it into our own lives, it's an incredible endeavor. So imagine this actually was relevant to us. And we knew this was just year 2023. We'll use the English years, it's easier. And the year 2030 is Shemitah. I'm pretty sure in the year 2028, 2029, it's going to be in our minds. We're going to be thinking, yeah, Shemitah's coming. We got a plan, we got a stockpile, we got to do all the things. Why are we counting? What's the purpose of counting? It sounds almost pointless. Says the Sfas Emes, you know what you're counting for? You're counting because the year of Shemitah is Chashiv, is the most important year like Matan Torah. What was Shemitah? What is Shemitah? You take off from the mundane, and it's a year, Shav Sa'aretz, it's Shabbos. You go back to Beis Medrash. You sit and learn. You sit and do Chasadim. You sit and you help people. You sit and you say Tillim. You wake up early, you go to the mikvah, you daven Shachris, you finish the Ganza Tillim, you eat breakfast, and then you sit and you learn, and then you go and you help someone, and then maybe you join Chaveirim and you join Atal. You can do everything. There's no money's coming to the bank account. So says the Sfas Emes, we're counting to show it's important. Why is this incredible? It's because often we have to reorient ourselves with what is important in life. I have a story written here. I think I wrote this. It's my notes. I don't know where I got the story from. I don't remember. Probably I heard it from somewhere. It's a very interesting story. I'll just say over what's written over here. And the story is that someone meets someone in Eretz Yisrael, and he says, where do you live? The guy says, I live here in Yerushalayim. And you say, oh, so nice. Where do you live? The guy's in his upper 40s. Where do you live? And he's like, in Via Leonardo down the block, the plaza, whatever, in the hotel. And you're like, this guy lives in the hotel. Interesting. And you say to him, what do you do? And he says, well, I daven Shachris at the Kaisel. I daven Meir v'Kevarachel. Oh yeah, and I learned throughout the day in Kail. I'm in Shana Rishayna. And he walks away and you're like, this is just odd. And you keep on walking and you bump into someone and the guy's like, oh, you just were talking to, Shmuel over there? You're like, yeah. He's like, interesting dude. He's like, oh, he's my uncle. He's your uncle. You're like, what's Shmuel doing here? He told me he lives here. He lives in a hotel. What's with this guy? And he says, oh, he's just a nice businessman here on vacation. What? He told me. So you go down, you chase Shmuel down, and you say, what's going on here? Your nephew told me the truth. You're a guy in business, and you're here on vacation. So what are you playing games with me? That you live in the hotel, and you have a shachris at the kaisel, and you're here in Kailo. So he says, listen, I work for a living. I have to work. 3 weeks every year, I come to Yerushalayim, I daven at the Kaisel, I daven Meir v'Kevarachel, I sit and learn for a few hours a day, and then I go out with my wife. Throughout the whole year, I don't really have time to hang out with my wife. I don't really have so much time to learn. But 3 weeks of the year, this is my quote-unquote Shana Rishayna. I have time to spend with my wife. I have time to sit and learn. I have time to daven, to go to the right places. And he says, the whole year, what am I thinking? Those few weeks that I'm going to have. That's a person that's counting down till Shemitah. That's a focus. And if you think about it, his workday looks like everyone else's workday. But he has a focus. So I don't know if we're all holding at the place, to think of 3 weeks. It sounds beautiful. But maybe it's a Shabbos. Maybe it's the 20-minute shir. Maybe it's the Shachris. It's what are we doing and what is auxiliary. And it's not a matter of time, it's just a matter of focus, what is important to us. So yes, we have to make a parnasa, and yes, we have to go to work, and yes, we have to do all these things. But where is our focus? The Sfas Emes is teaching us. We count the years of Shemitah. And we could say similarly, we count every day. Hayom Yom Rishon l'Shabbos. Hayom Yom Sheni l'Shabbos. What are we doing? We're counting to Shabbos. Because what are we? We as Jews are Shabbos. That is what we are. What's Shabbos? Shabbos is the day that we daven, we relax, we learn, we eat. That's really what it is. The rest of the week is just getting to that point. Well, remind yourself what we spoke about so many times. We spoke about the Zayar, and we quoted it from the Chinuch, and we quoted it from the Ishbitzer, we quoted from all sources. That what? Shabbos fuels the whole week. Everything comes from Shabbos. Shabbos is Mikara Bracha. So it's a matter of focus, and it gives us a completely new feeling on everything that we're doing. And it allows us really to breathe easier. Yeah, it's difficult. It was a hard day at the office. It was a hard day at home. It was a hard day with the kids. And it's allowed to be hard. It's allowed to be challenging. But then we take a deep breath and we say, you know what? In a few days, I'm going to be able to relax. I'll be able to turn off my computer. I'll be able to turn off my phone. For some people, it's the opposite. I know, it's get through Shabbos so I could, get back to the office and relax. But either way, the point of the story is that we have to reorient ourselves with our priorities in life. And the more that we live with what is a real priority, the more we'll be able to be productive people. I learned today the Mesilas Yesharim again at the beginning of the third parak. And he says that there's two things you always have to think about. And I don't know why every time you learn Mesilas Yesharim, you get a newfound appreciation. He says, what are the two things you think about? Number one is there's good and there's bad. We'll call it macro. In the macro world, there's toiv and there's ra. And then he says you have to think about, in the micro world, your actions. Is this an action that's leading me towards good or the opposite? Such a simple idea. But our entire life, we could either be angling ourselves and slowly, it could be the smallest baby step. And the Mesilas Yesharim keeps on repeats again and again and again. The big picture, are we driving towards Har Sinai? Are we realizing, we're in the middle of Sirah. It's going to be Shavuos. It's going to be Kabbalah Satayra. Yeah, maybe I can learn for X amount of time every day, but I could learn for a moment. I could learn for 2. I could learn for a little bit more. Maybe I could open a sefer for another 5 minutes. I'm having the right focus. And then in my micro actions, can I do this? Can I not do this? Incredible Sfas Emes. So we're going to conclude with a Mishnah Navis. Mishnah Navis in Parak K, which I actually think is this week's Parak. Beautiful. Look at that. Says Mishnah Navis, Kolus comes to the world for the following of Eris. The big 3, Avodah Zarah, there you go, Gilei Arayis, and Shvichas Damim. And then, because you didn't keep Shemitah. And everyone asks, the big 3 I understand. Avodah Zarah, Gilei Arayis, Shvichas Damim. You're being a horrible, terrible person. We were just talking about before if we even should be joking around, about Avodah Zarah, etc. But what does it mean that not keeping Shemitah is part of that list? It sounds a bit misplaced. So the Mishnah Yosef explains that why does Galus come if you don't keep Shemitah? He says it's not a punishment. It's cause and effect. What is Eretz Yisrael called? Eretz Tzvi. Why is it called Eretz Tzvi? It's like a deer. What's a deer? That the skin stretches to hold everyone in it. As much as you're there, it expands. A beautiful mashal that we could think about it. The Shalom Meshiv says it's like the hem on your pants. You get a little taller, the kid, you take out the hem a little more, you take it out a little more, and a little more. It expands. The reaction to the land of Eretz Yisrael, if you don't keep Shemitah, is it spits you out. It's a reaction. It's not a punishment. You're living in God's palace, Eretz Yisrael, Yerushalayim. You're living in God's palace and you're not going to follow His rules, the palace is going to throw you out. I'm not punishing you. It's not a punishment. But if you're living in the palace and the king is right there and he tells you, please, don't pick up the mop and mop the floor, and you go and you mop the floor, the guards are going to throw you out. They're not punishing you. You don't belong to be here. It's the reaction, says the Mishnah's Yosef. So therefore, that's why it's on the same level as the big three. The big three have a punishment of Galus. Because you committed the worst crimes, Avodah Zarah, Gilui Arayah, Shfichas Damim. But Shemitah is not that it's a punishment. It brings Galus because that's the reaction. So what does that have to do with us? Number one, Shemitah was last year. Number two is we're not in Eretz Yisrael. So, what is? You always have to keep Shemitah everywhere. Yeah, okay. But we missed it. So what I saw, I think Ramesha is the shtickle medaik this, is that if we go with this understanding that why does Galus come if you don't keep Shemitah? Because the land spits you out. Meaning, you're in the palace, you're not keeping the rules, you get ejected. So what's a similar area that we all have in our lives? It's called the Beis Medrash. It's called the Beis Knesses. It's called a Mikdash Ma'at. You're in God's house. You're sitting in Hashem's house and you don't follow the rules. Rachmana litzlan. It's going to spit you out. And Rav Avigdor Miller famously writes, whether it's popular or not, but he writes that unfortunately we can never say the cause for anything terrible that happens to Klal Yisrael because we're not Hashem. But he says one of the causes of the Holocaust was what? There was a lacking in the shuls. There was a lacking in the Batei Midrashim. People did not have the right kavod for Hashem's palace. You don't have kavod for Hashem's palace? You're going to talk in shul. You're going to act inappropriately in shul. You're not going to realize that a shul is for davening, a shul is for learning. It's going to spit you out. It's the reaction. So in as much as we don't have Shemitah perhaps right now, but we still can learn from this week's Parsha, and we can learn from the Mishnah and Avos, that we don't want Galus. Galus is bad. We feel Galus every single day, but we certainly don't want Galus from Hashem. We don't want Hashem to say, get out of my house. And even if it's not in the shul, everyone's house is their own Mikdash Ma'at. And if we were to go a little bit deeper, we spoke about in Shemais that b'soicham b'soch kol echad ve'echad. Your neshama is your own little mikdash ma'at. We spoke about that the ivarim, the limbs of your body, are all the different parts of the Beis HaMikdash. So similarly, if we don't keep our body with kedusha, if we don't follow the rules, it's going to be exile. Hashem's going to spit us out. It's not a punishment. The king is not punishing us. It's just we don't belong to be here. So Amir Hashem, the more that we realize that we're in Hashem's house, we're in His palace, and our own houses are palaces of Hashem, and we try to infuse our houses with Kedusha, infuse our houses with the feeling that we're in Hashem's palace, and doesn't have to be negative. What does that mean? It means we're Bnei Malachim. It means we're children of the king, we're in the palace. A Ben Melech, we don't act that way. We're above that. We're not the lowly whatnot on the ground. We're holy people. We have to act with dignity. We have to act in a special way. And then we continue that with realizing that what are we really? We're not our job. We're not the money that we make. Yes, that might be the amount of time that we spend the most on. But where is our focus? Our focus is on Yom Rishon l'Shabbos, Yom Sheni l'Shabbos. It's the first year of Shemitah. It's the 6th year of Shemitah. I'm counting down to that year that I'm going to take a break. I'm going to have emunah and bitachon. I'm going to sit and I'm going to learn with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But with that, we realize, let's not get bogged down and trick ourselves. Yeah, I do a lot of optional things. I do a lot of easy things sometimes. Yeah, I did this nice and I did that nice. Yeah, but I forgot about the Shulchan Aruch and I forgot that it was Shabbos. It was beautiful. I had a Gavaldik Kiddush. I happened to have drove to shul for it. That's foolish. That's foolish, says Rav Hirsch. We have to realize their priorities. And ultimately, B'siyata Dishmaya, don't talk about it. Don't have to tell everyone what we're doing. We just do it. We lead by example, as we've said so many times. And we'll conclude within our own houses. We speak that we're in a Mikdash Mat. So we are the Melech. Not the Melech, not the Moishel, not the dictator yelling and screaming. The Melech, with dignity, uplifting everyone. How beautiful it is, how incredible it is, how positive it is to live such a life. And thereby, B'siyata D'Shmaya, we'll slowly be able to come back to the place that we'll be able to once again be shomer shmita, and ultimately our raglai will bring us to the Beis HaMedrash, as we'll slowly get a little bit closer, both in the macro as we're going to reorient ourselves, and as well in the micro, slowly, teeny little steps, the smallest things. B'siyata d'ishmaya.